I never wanted to work at a self-storage facility. But when you're 22, drowning in student loans, and your landlord starts leaving passive-aggressive notes about late rent, you take whatever job you can get. Secure Keep Storage sat on a lonely stretch of Highway 83, about 15 miles outside of Abilene, Texas. The kind of place you'd drive past 100 times and never notice. Just rows of orange metal units baking under the sun, surrounded by flat, empty land that stretched to the horizon. The nearest gas station was 6 miles north. The nearest anything else was further. My shift ran from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. 8 hours of sitting in a small office with flickering fluorescent lights, watching security monitors, and occasionally walking the grounds with a flashlight. The pay was decent, $15 an hour plus a small bonus for working overnights. My boss, a heavy-set man named Earl who smelled perpetually of cigarette smoke, told me the job was simple. People rent units. They store their stuff. Sometimes they show up late at night to grab something. You let them in, log their visit, and let them out. That's it. He slid a laminated sheet across the desk during my orientation. These are the gate codes for after hours. Renters have their own codes. If someone shows up without one, you don't let them in. No exceptions. We've had tweakers try to break in before, copper thieves, that sort of thing. You see anything suspicious, you call the sheriff's department. Don't try to be a hero. I nodded along, barely listening. How hard could it be? The first 2 weeks were exactly as boring as I expected. I'd bring my laptop, stream movies, and occasionally glance at the monitors. The facility had over 300 units spread across 6 long buildings, labeled A through F. Most nights, not a single person came through the gate. The only company I had was the distant hum of the highway and the occasional coyote howling somewhere in the darkness. It was during my 3rd week that I started noticing Unit 149. I was going through the rental logs one night, not because I had to, but because I was bored out of my mind. The software we used was ancient, probably from the early 2000s, and it kept detailed records of every unit, renter information, payment history, access logs. Unit 149 was located in Building D, right in the middle of the row. According to the system, it had been rented 3 years ago to someone named J. Mercer. Payment was automatic, withdrawn from a checking account on the 1st of every month without fail. But here's what caught my attention. The access log was completely empty. 3 years. 36 months of rent payments. And not a single recorded entry. I clicked through other units to compare. Most showed sporadic access, people coming once a month, once a week, whatever. Some units hadn't been opened in 6 months, even a year. But 3 years of nothing? That was unusual. I told myself it wasn't my business. Maybe J. Mercer had died and the automatic payments just kept going. Maybe they'd moved across the country and forgotten about the unit. People abandoned storage units all the time. That's how those auction shows worked, right? Still, something about it nagged at me. The following Thursday, everything changed. It was 3:12 a.m. I was half asleep in my chair, some true crime documentary playing on my laptop, when the gate alarm beeped. Someone had entered a code. I sat up and checked the monitor. A vehicle was pulling through, a dark pickup truck, older model, maybe early 2000s Chevy. The headlights swept across the pavement as it turned toward Building D. I grabbed the access log clipboard. Yes, we still used paper backups, Earl insisted on it, and noted the time. The truck parked in front of Unit 149. A man got out. He was tall, probably 6'2" or 6'3", with a lean build. He wore dark jeans and a plain black jacket despite the lingering Texas heat. I couldn't make out his face. He kept his head angled away from the cameras, almost like he knew exactly where they were positioned. I watched him approach the unit, punch in a code on the keypad lock, and roll up the metal door. The interior was dark, the units didn't have built-in lighting. He stepped inside and disappeared from view. I glanced at the clock on my computer. 3:15 a.m. 12 minutes later, at exactly 3:27 a.m., he walked out. He pulled the door down, locked it, got back in his truck, and drove away. He hadn't carried anything in. He hadn't carried anything out. I noted everything in the log, my handwriting shakier than usual. Maybe he was just checking on something. Making sure it was still there. People did that, right? I almost convinced myself it was nothing. But then he came back the next Thursday. Same time. 3:15 a.m. Same routine. Exactly 12 minutes inside. Nothing in, nothing out. And the Thursday after that. And the Thursday after that. By the 4th visit, I was obsessed. I started adjusting my position to watch the monitors more closely, trying to catch a glimpse of his face. But he was careful, always turning away, always keeping to the shadows. The cameras were old, the resolution grainy. All I could make out was the general shape of him. I thought about calling L, but what would I say? "Hey boss, a paying customer is visiting his unit regularly. Thought you should know." He'd think I was losing it. On the fifth Thursday, I made a decision that I would come to regret for the rest of my life. I was going to look inside Unit 149. The man had left at 3:27 as always. I waited an extra 30 minutes to make sure he wasn't coming back, then grabbed my flashlight and master key. Every unit in the facility could be opened with the master key in case of emergencies, fires, police investigations, that sort of thing. Earl had given it to me on day one. "Only use this if absolutely necessary," he'd said. I told myself this was necessary. Something was wrong. I could feel it. The walk to Building D felt longer than usual. The night was quiet, too quiet. No coyotes, no highway noise, just the crunch of my boots on gravel and the pounding of my heart in my ears. Unit 149 sat in the middle of the row, identical to every other unit. Orange metal door, silver keypad, small ventilation grate near the top. Nothing special about it. I slid the master key into the lock, turned it, and heard the mechanism click open. I grabbed the handle and pulled the door up slowly, wincing at the metallic screech. The smell hit me first, stale air, dust, and something else underneath it. Something chemical, like old developing fluid. I raised my flashlight and stepped inside. The beam cut through the darkness, and my breath caught in my throat. Photographs. Hundreds of them. They covered every wall, floor to ceiling, overlapping in some places, arranged in neat rows in others. All of them were candid shots, people walking, people sitting, people sleeping. Taken through windows, from across parking lots, from impossibly close angles. I moved closer, my flashlight trembling. The first cluster showed a young woman, maybe mid-20s, with blonde hair. She was photographed leaving what looked like this very office. Sitting in the chair I sat in every night. Walking the grounds with a flashlight. There had to be 50 or 60 photos of her alone. I checked the bottom corner of one image. A small date stamp read, the 14th of August 2019. My stomach dropped. I moved to the next cluster. A different person, a man this time, heavy-set, with a beard. Same setting. Same angles. The date stamps ranged from March 2020 to November 2020. Then another cluster. A young man with glasses. February 2021 to September 2021. I counted the clusters. 6 in total. 6 different people. All photographed in and around secure keep storage. All of them had clearly worked the night shift, just like me. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the flashlight. I forced myself to keep moving, to see everything. And then I reached the final cluster. The newest one. The photos were arranged more carefully here, like they mattered more. They showed someone walking across the parking lot at night. Someone sitting in the office, laptop open, face illuminated by the screen. Someone standing outside Building D, flashlight in hand, looking up at the sky. Me. Every single photo was of me. I stumbled backward, my heel catching on something. I looked down and saw a small cardboard box tucked against the wall. Inside were personal items, a woman's wallet, a man's wedding ring, a pair of glasses, a phone with a shattered screen. 6 items in total. Trophies. I ran. I didn't bother closing the unit door. I didn't grab my things from the office. I just sprinted to my car, fumbled with my keys, and tore out of the parking lot so fast my tires screamed against the pavement. I drove straight to the sheriff's department and told them everything. They looked at me like I was crazy at first, but something in my face must have convinced them. 2 deputies followed me back to the facility as the sun was coming up. Unit 149 was empty. Not just empty, cleaned. The walls were bare. The floor was swept. There was nothing left except the faint chemical smell that still lingered in the air. The deputies exchanged glances. One of them sighed. "Son, are you sure you weren't dreaming? Night shifts can do strange things to people's minds." I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab him by the shoulders and make him understand. But I had no proof. Nothing. I quit that same day. Elle didn't even ask why. I think he knew. I think he always knew. I moved back home to live with my parents. Changed my phone number. Deleted all my social media. For a while, I convinced myself it was over. That whoever Jay Mercer was, he'd moved on. Found someone else. Then, 3 weeks ago, I found an envelope in my mailbox. There was no return address. No postmark. Just my name, handwritten in neat block letters. Inside was a photograph. It showed me sitting at my parents' kitchen table, eating breakfast. The photo was taken through the window, from the backyard. I recognized the curtains, the coffee mug, the exact shirt I was wearing that morning. On the back, in the same neat handwriting, was a single sentence. You shouldn't have opened the door. I haven't slept more than 2 hours a night since. I've installed cameras, motion sensors, everything. But every morning, I check the footage, and there's nothing. No movement. No intruders. And yet, every few days, another envelope appears. Sometimes it's in my mailbox. Sometimes it's on my car windshield. Once, I found one slipped under my bedroom door. He's out there. He's watching. And I don't think he's going to stop until he adds me to his collection. If you're ever driving through rural Texas and see a job posting for overnight work at a storage facility, do yourself a favor. Keep driving.